Welcome back to Ebru today. Well, most leaders have one name when they were born, and they usually keep their name as they assume their leadership position. But there's one vice president who completely changed his name during his childhood. Our D.C.-based correspondent Robin Hamilton has more in today's Get to Know Your Vice President.
Mia, the question, who is Leslie Lynch Jr. or Leslie Lynch King Jr.? Doesn't sound like a name of any of the vice presidents who have assumed office in the United States. That's because this man changed his name to Gerald Ford. Ford was Leslie Lynch King Jr. in July of 1913 in Nebraska. However, his mother would soon separate from his father after a tumultuous marriage, and they would later move to Michigan. She remarried to her second husband, whose name was, you guessed it, Gerald Ford. Ford would assume the name of his stepfather, eliminating ties to his biological father, but that didn't happen immediately. While he lived under his stepfather's roof as a young boy, he didn't legally change his name until he was 22 years old, and it was at that point he assumed the name of his stepfather, Gerald Rudolph Ford Jr. So what's in a name? Ford would go down in history with a name that carried good and bad distinctions. He was the only figure to assume both the vice presidency and the presidency without ever being elected. He became the 40th vice president of the United States after then Vice President Spiro T. Agnew resigned after money laundering and tax evasion charges. Ford served, however, only 1 year in that post from 1973 to 1974. Ford would later become president in 1974 after President Richard Nixon resigned at the height of the Watergate scandal. And later, Ford would be criticized for giving Nixon a presidential pardon in that scandal. But despite his tenure in office during a difficult time in history, his name will in fact be remembered. Live in D.C. with your D.C. Connection, I'm Robin Hamilton. Back to you.
Never would have gotten that trivia question. Thank you, Robin. And Robin also reports that Ford was also the president who spent the shortest time in office, 895 days in office. It was the shortest term for any president who didn't die in office.